Sometimes it's tough to get this palette open. Yeah. It's supposed to be a tight fit. It's supposed to keep my oil colors from, I guess, drying out, but I don't know if it necessarily does that. I think what it mostly does is just keep the scent from getting all throughout the place, which, I don't know, it's not something I really care about because the smell of oil paint doesn't really bother me. Some people think that oil paint, the scent is supposed to be toxic, but it's not. The scent is not toxic. It's some of the solvents that get toxic, but even then you don't have to paint with a bunch of oil painting solvents. You can just use the oil paint mostly. It's just a case of finding a brand that doesn't use or doesn't have paint that's too stiff that requires you to use a medium with it, because some brands have very stiff paint, right? Some of them do. I like brands of oil paint that are a little bit on the soft side just because I don't want to work to paint with it. I don't want to have to finagle around with too many mediums. Like, occasionally the one medium or another is okay, but I don't like working too hard, I guess, is the takeaway there. So I usually opt for something a little softer, like Winsor Newton's pretty soft, Rembrandt's pretty soft. Gamblin is actually pretty stiff, but I still kind of like the paint anyway. But really, you can't go wrong with too many brands. As long as it's an artist quality paint, it's going to be a good paint. Can't think of any brands off the top of my head that I would say are outright bad. Alright guys, I think we got our main colors. I'm sure we'll add something onto the palette as we're going, but let's get to it, soulmates. Let's kick things off with a dark color. I think we're just going to start with Prussian blue and cadmium red light. You know, I just put alizarin crimson, ultramarine, cadmium yellow on the palette, and you know what we do? We start out with Prussian blue and cadmium red light. Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, like I tell you guys, mix those two together, they create a pretty good mix. Pretty good neutral mix. It's very attractive, I think. And let's see here, I'm just going to add a little bit of white to this to see what I got. I think that'll do. I think we'll add just maybe a little bit of green to this, though. I know, it's weird. Adding a little bit of green to that, I don't know, man. That just feels right. Adding a little bit of green feels good. Okay. Not too much, though. Just adding a little bit of green because it seems like we're getting so much sap green and everything. It's driving me a little crazy. Anyway, this will give us a nice, deep, kind of turquoisey color, I guess you could call it. Turquoisey, that really describes it. Turquoisey. There. That's pretty fine. I don't think I need to do anything more with that. Alright, let's focus on maybe another highlight here. I don't know. Yeah, we'll focus on a highlight. I think we'll just get a little dab of white here. And we'll decide. We'll make a big decision here. Do we want to add a little bit of ultramarine into that? Just a tiniest dab. The tiniest dab. Not too much. Even the tiniest dab can sometimes be a touch too much, if you know what I mean, guys. Sometimes it's just a wee too much, but I think this will work. Okay. Let me make sure I get some of the paint off of there. Let's use the edge of this. The edge of this, and add a little highlight right there. Boom. See, that's looking pretty okay right there. And there's going to be like another little highlight over here, but I don't know. Are we ready for it yet? I don't know if we're ready for it yet. I'm going to add, I'm going to try something. I'm going to create another color here. Let's get out the Prussian blue again. It makes up a neutral. There's going to be like a, this amplifier here because you can't really tell all that much, but there's an amplifier next to the figure, and it's not a super important piece of work, but it's some. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to capture the gist of things, and I don't want to get too detailed, but I just want to make sure that I got some forms in the background there that are making the painting a little bit more, I guess, detailed, more interesting, etc., etc. You gotta be careful when you paint background objects. Yeah, be careful painting background objects because sometimes the temptation to get too detailed is always looming. Alright, so right about in the center of this, right about right here, is where I think this plug is going to go. And we might have actually made this little bit right here a little too large. It might need to be smaller. Well, better to realize it now than later. Oh man. We're going to drive ourselves crazy painting this, aren't we? Maybe a little bit. Alright, this is going to go way up here. And then it's going to come back down, and then it's going to curve this way. Alright. And then it's going to go back down over in here, and it's going to curve all the way down there. Okay. And then we got another background object over here that we need to get. So, let's add a little bit of white on this. Maybe a little bit more cadmium red light to make this look slightly more neutral, slightly more red. I think I just need a little bit more red on this. I don't want to get too... I want it to look like a little bit of a violet color when the light's hitting it. Let's check and see what this looks like. This doesn't look too bad. This is a handsome violet color. That'll work. Yeah, that'll do. Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's not bad at all. This will help us also to tell where this cord is going, because right now, if we didn't have this, it would be a little difficult to make heads or tails of what's happening with the cord. Because it's going to get lost among all the darks that we're putting in. I'm just adding a little bit more blue to highlight on this over here. Okay. Let's make sure we add a little something over here. I'm just gonna, there. That's probably about fine. Okay. Let's start thinking about what's going to be in the background over on this end now. Now we've done all that. It's going to be a pretty simple color, I think. I think it's going to mostly be a series. It's going to be like a, how do I put it? It's going to be like a mishmash of colors. That's the real talk right there. It's just going to be a mishmash. So I think I'm going to get out the ultramarine finally. And we're going to lead with a violet color. And it's going to be mostly ultramarine on this. And I hope I get this right. I think I mostly got it right. Here. I think I got this right, so let's make sure the brush is a little bit cleaned off. Okay. Make sure things are pretty straight, or at least as straight as we can. Now let's bring things over here. You can tell this is a very vibrant mix. You can tell this is very purple. Well, sometimes purple just works. Sometimes purple is the dark you need even though you didn't know you need it. A lot of shadows are very purpley anyway, so I guess it all works out. I don't know if you ever spend any time looking at shadows, but sometimes I do, and I always notice that things get very purple a lot of the time. Now, there's always going to be a little bit of reflected light that goes in this stuff, so sometimes it surprises you, but it also surprises you just how violet shadow colors can be. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use varying degrees, varying mixes of cadmium yellow, alizarin crimson, and ultramarine to make this happen. What we're looking for right now is a little bit more of a middle green color with the ultramarine and the cadmium yellow. I think I've found it. This is going to be a little bit like coloring with children's paints. And if you ever painted with alizarin crimson and ultramarine and cadmium yellow, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes painting with those colors can feel very childlike. In a sense, a lot of times it's very freeing. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel like a kid again to paint with those colors. And maybe it's why I paint with them as often as I do. Boy, this piece of work over here is very precarious, isn't it? Yeah, I suppose it is. Okay. Now let's start thinking about what we're going to do with the alizarin crimson, because we need to get some alizarin crimson in here. I would be remiss if we didn't. It's going to be a very dull burgundy type of color. It's not going to be lighting any worlds on fire, but you know, sometimes that dull crimson, that dull burgundy is just what we need. It's going to be a little bit like a mosaic over here of strange splotches and strange colors. But it'll be interesting. Okay. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and get one little splotch over in here. That's cool. One more touch of the ultramarine to really negotiate the bottom of this. Okay. And then maybe just a touch of white to really do something more with the ultramarine. As a matter of fact, I've already got a lot of white in this over here, so maybe we'll just take some of the ultramarine. Because I have that ultramarine and white mixed up from earlier that I used for a highlight. Well, let's go ahead and just slip some ultramarine again in there, because you know what worked once can work even better the second time. That's certainly a mantra, isn't it? Yeah, I guess so. Looking for kind of a dark color here. I think we might have it. I think we have it, yeah. You gotta remember that when you add a white to ultramarine, that ultramarine is always going to be a little bit darker than you think it is. It's actually a way darker value than you could possibly anticipate. It'll surprise you, it'll sneak up on you, and it'll show you what's what. Ultramarine is just a really versatile color I like painting with, and every artist uses it. If an artist tells you that they don't paint with ultramarine, odds are they're probably lying. Because everybody uses ultramarine. Everybody loves ultramarine. It's just the way of the world. Artists love ultramarine, and for good reason. It's got a almost spiritual kind of significance to it. It's that important of a color. The color used to be worth its weight in gold way back during the Renaissance, because it used to be you could only get the color after mining it from stones and such in Afghanistan, maybe even Chile. But there was a synthetic way to manufacture ultramarine that was discovered in the early-ish to mid 1800s, and ever since then the market for genuine ultramarine is just, well, non-existent. No one's actually going out of their way to buy genuine ultramarine anymore. And if they are, they're probably just doing it out of morbid curiosity. So, well, ultramarine used to be really expensive. Now even the stuff that you can just... Now even the genuine variety, it's not worth all that much money. You can buy it for a lot cheaper than people used to pay for it in the Renaissance. The genuine variety, no less. Isn't that crazy? It's wild how things change. It's wild how... It's wild how a color so valued can... so important to the history of art can be so relegated to the bargain bin. Not that it's a bad color, not that it makes it useless or anything, it's just that it's unusual to think about that every art student has the color in their paint box. Every art student has that color in their paint box. Every single one. Hmm. Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm happy for it. I mean, if I didn't have ultramarine, I don't really know how I would paint. I guess we'd be in trouble, wouldn't we? Maybe a little bit. Because I like painting with ultramarine so much that if I couldn't do it, I had to pay Renaissance prices for it. I guess I'd be using black instead. And that's what artists used to do. They used to use black. They used to use black in place of blue, which is why paintings seem so dark from back then. Every so often you'll run across some bits of blue here and there, but more often than not, they kind of just save the blue for the most important passages because they didn't want to waste all the patrons' money on such a... How do I phrase this? They didn't want to waste the patrons' money on an irrelevant passage. They only wanted to do it when they were absolutely sure they were going to paint with it. So oftentimes you'll look at a Renaissance painting and the blue part will seem very disconnected from the rest of the painting. And there's a reason for that, because they didn't want to waste their blue. Our history is just... we don't really realize just how practical a lot of the choices were back then. Like, you don't stop and think about it while you're looking at it, but you look at these people and think that... You look at their art and you think that they must have existed on a higher plane of existence, when in reality, most of the time they were just making the most practical choices they could to make their art. And that's the truth right there. They weren't doing it because they had a connection with the heavens or anything. They were just doing things because it was the most efficient way to do it. Waste the patrons' money? No, let's not do that. Let's go ahead and save this for later. There were some guys that, despite the exorbitant cost of Ultramarine, still went to the trouble of using it. Like, and they weren't necessarily funded by anyone or anything. Like, Vermeer wasn't necessarily funded by anyone. He just painted because he wanted to paint. He was an art dealer. He painted because he wanted to paint, as far as I'm aware. But he still went to the trouble of obtaining genuine ultramarine and using it. Nothing was going to stop him from getting his color. Oh, man. Crazy stuff. All right. I'm kind of repainting this a little bit because I realized that I got the shape of it wrong, unfortunately. So it's with a certain amount of shame right now that I have to finagle my way through this a little bit. That's alright. Happens to the best of us, everyone. You can't let that stuff bother you too much. All you can do is take it on the chin and do better next time. That's what I intend to do. I intend to do better next time. I intend to not screw up my painting so badly. No, this isn't that bad. I've done much worse on paintings. Like, look at all this. This is actually pretty nice looking right now. Okay, let's put this over here. Alright. I want you all to know that metal is a very difficult subject to paint. Metal. Metal. I have no love lost for metal. Nah. It could be a lot worse, honestly. It really could. I added just a little bit of white to this. Alright. How deep do we want to go into all these color notes and whatnot? I don't know. I don't know, guys. Sometimes it's easy to get lost in colors. I think that right about about yay far, like right here, is actually where we're going to go. God, that's crazy. Okay. I think I have something I can work with here. There. Now. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. We might, I don't know, should I leave this the way it is for right now? It's hard to decide, guys. Like, part of me kind of thinks maybe we should, but then another part of me says, I don't know about that. I don't know if I like that quite yet. Like, I feel like I'm just leaving things on the table if I don't go ahead with it, if I don't complete it necessarily. But we have to be real with ourselves and acknowledge that maybe this isn't necessarily going to be all the way complete today. Like, we are working for this on the same particular grid again. And how many times have we done that so far other than going back and restarting on grid 1 just to get the proportions right? We haven't done that too often, have we? No, not really. So this is, I guess you could call it uncharted territory. You could call it that, and I wouldn't disagree with you. Okay, I got a gray mixed up here, that'll work. This is a little bit of Prussian blue and cadmium red light. Now right about there. Right about there. Right about there is where we got things here. Let's bring this over to the side here. Okay. Let's bring this down here. Okay. I think my one regret right now is that this maybe doesn't look like what I intend for it to look like yet, but hopefully we can get the ball rolling strong enough that it starts to look like what we want it to look like. God, I really hope so, guys. Because technically it doesn't have to look like anything. I don't know, it's like a constant battle of trying to decide, do I really want to define this that badly? Or is this fine to just leave? Tell you what, let's just concentrate on the foreground stuff over here. The sleeve, the arm, the the sheet. I was trying to think of the name of that right there. Oh boy. Oh boy, we're on top of our game today, aren't we? Yeah, we're really nailing things down, guys. Alright, let's wipe off this palette knife. Cool. And let's make sure we get some sap green, because I'm going to need some sap green, I feel like, for the sheet. Whereas the shirt is going to be slightly more Prussian blue. Yeah. I don't need too much sap green, because there's not that much sheet here. Not really. Yeah, we're kind of okay. Okay. Let's see, let me get a little white, guys. Well, a little white, a little sap green, a lot of white. And let's see how things look. Here, one more round of white, I think, will do the trick. This is kind of a very vibrant sap green, I think. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of the cadmium yellow deep and insert it into the sap green so that maybe it's not quite so vibrant. And then I think we'll have something. Because I'm a little bit hesitant to have a color that's just so, well, you know, sap green isn't really the color you think of when you think of vibrant colors, but this particular one I'm using does have a kick to it. A really nice kick, but still a kick. Okay. Alright, let me see how things look, guys. This'll do, I think. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. I'm always worried about the sap green not looking good enough when I start, you know, thinking about all the sheets and stuff and where all the color is going to go, but this will do nicely. So, the sheet right here, this is where it's going to start right here, okay? And we're going to bring it right to about, right to about here. Yeah. And then let's paint the highlight right here, guys. And that does not look too shabby at all. That's about how bright I wanted things to be. Yeah, that works for me. Okay. This is going good. This is going good. Alright. Kind of overshot it a little bit on the sap green over there, but what we'll do, since this is kind of a ochre color, we'll insert a little bit of a violet, I think. Maybe. A little bit of a violet. I think. I'm going to take more of the sap green, more of the cadmium yellow deep. Kind of just work with this a little bit. Let's see what it looks like, guys. Okay. This might actually work. This is kind of another ochreish color, and we've been kind of using this a lot, but I made this err on the side of green a little bit, so hopefully this looks alright when we use it. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, it's a little bit ochre. I probably could have used a little bit more there. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Nah. Nah, doesn't look too shabby. Yeah, it's fine. I don't know, I might mess around with this a little bit as we go. Kind of feel like there's a lot of ideas here to work around with. I don't feel like maybe there's going to be quite so much violet in there, but let's go ahead and put it there anyway, just because, I don't know. Well, there's going to be a little bit of Prussian blue in the background there, but maybe we'll just work the violet in a little bit and just put it like right here. I don't know. Like ballpark right there. And you can barely tell it's there, but still it's there. Yeah, you can barely see it. If you look close enough, you might be able to see something. Yeah. Just a little bit like that. Check it out, guys. See how attractive that color is? It's already doing the work for us. It's barely had to do anything. I love it when that works. Just, you know, it just helps to know how the colors on your palette works. It helps to know what the relationships between individual colors around the color wheel are. And, you know, from there you can kind of just piece it together. Like for the shirt here, I think what we're going to do is we're going to use a little bit more Prussian blue. A little bit more Prussian blue to the cadmium scarlet and even the cadmium yellow. And let's find a place on the palette where things aren't too messy, which is sometimes easier said than done. It is easy to run yourself into a corner and have a color that's very, very teal when you're using Prussian blue, because the color does such a hard shift toward green when you start adding white. It's one of the strongest colors there is. It's so powerful, but that's why it's such an addictive color. Alright, where did my tube of Prussian blue go? I had a tube of Prussian blue around here. Where did I put that? I don't know. That's weird. It's a little weird. How do you lose a tube of Prussian blue? Prussian blue isn't exactly a shy color. Oh boy, I got some paint in my hand. Yeah, what else is new? Oh wait, I put my Prussian blue over here. I found it. It was hiding underneath my paper towel. Oh, thank goodness. Got all these tubes of Prussian blue, and one of them I have to kind of pry open with a pair of pliers later because the paint has dried on it, and it's a little bit sealed right now, but hopefully we can get that open. No, we'll get it open. Let's be optimistic here. It's going to happen. It's just going to take a little bit of elbow grease. Alright, Prussian blue. Okay. Okay. I'm adding more and more white to this to try and get it right where I want it, and it's happening bit by bit. It's being a stubborn. Prussian blue is particularly stubborn. I'm starting to wonder if maybe I should start using a little bit more cerulean in its place. Maybe then I can get the color where I want a little easier. I don't know. Guess we could try it at some point. I like Prussian blue. Ooh boy, sometimes it doesn't want to cooperate. Need some more white, guys. Let's add a little bit more white. Okay. Alright. You know, for once we actually might have gotten a little too bright. But right now, that's looking a little bit more like what we're looking for. Okay, let's work with that, guys. Better. Better. Okay, make sure the brush is clean. We don't want to accidentally get any contamination or anything in this white color here. And then we'll just throw this down. And we'll make some decisions about how this is all going to take shape after we get it all in. Obviously, we're going to want to start thinking about the colors that are going to be next to it, the colors that are going to be in it. We're going to want to use kind of an orange-red color, to make this happen. Okay, see that right there? We're covering up a little bit of what we just did, guys. Because what we did, we kind of overshot the sheet, but now we're course correcting. So now we're looking good. And now let's start thinking about those orange colors that we were talking about. Those reddish oranges. Maybe even those grays. Okay. There's going to be a little bit of a orange right in there. Sometimes there's just orange colors that appear. Okay. Let's add. Let me do what I said I was going to do. I'm going to get that Prussian blue with the cadmium red. Let's get that in, guys. I've been thinking a lot about what I want my next painting to be. I don't know. Been thinking a lot about still life stuff recently. But also I have a landscape that I've been working on periodically that I was trying to live stream, but I don't know. Live streaming hasn't really been working out for painting stuff, which is too bad because I enjoy it. But I don't know. Interest in painting content seems like it's all over the place. Some people seem like they're really into it, but it's hard to justify doing it when it doesn't really bring in an audience, you know? Which I guess is why I stick to videos mostly now. But maybe we'll continue the one landscape painting that I started pretty soon. And then maybe we'll try our hands at a still life, something or another. Okay, I'm whipping up here a little bit of a... I'm whipping up a little bit of a violet. Is this going to be a good violet? I hope so. I hope it is. Okay. It's going to be a very light... It's going to be a very light violet. It's one that we whipped up with cadmium red light and Prussian blue. Because even though we use them to neutralize each other quite a bit, they don't neutralize like perfectly. They're not perfect mixing complements or anything like that. Okay. And over in here, we're noticing a few colors that, let's maybe be a little bit braver with some of these paints that we're using. Like maybe we're using something to kind of add a little bit more separation. I think we need to start pushing values a little bit when it comes to shadows and stuff, just so that we can have a little bit more separation between colors, like certain things like that. I don't know if you guys could see that. Yeah, I think you can. You saw that where we just push that color a little bit. So that it stands out a little bit more. Now we've got this blue against this rather orange color we're going to be whipping up very shortly. And this is going to be kind of an intense color that we're going to whip up here in a second. And there's not going to be a lot of it. Not going to be a lot of it, but there's going to be enough that's going to make a mark right here. Because that color that we painted last time, I wasn't particularly fond of it. I didn't like it that well. And I didn't like it because it just didn't feel right. It felt too... It felt underwhelming, I guess is what I'm driving at. Didn't feel like the color it should have been. That happens with colors for me sometimes, where I'll do things and I'll say to myself, I don't know what I did there, but that ain't it. So we'll take the alizarin crimson, we'll take the cadmium yellow, and we'll see what we can come up with here. Because when you mix those two together, they automatically create a kind of fleshy color. And I like using the cadmium yellow more so than yellow ochre because it's got a little bit more of a shine to it. The way it reflects light is just so visually interesting that I can't help it. I love it. Okay. I think we're going to take this color that we just whipped up and we're going to add it over here. Because this is just, I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe we'll add a little bit over here too. We mustn't be afraid to try things. Even if they don't work the way we think they're going to. Still gotta try things. Okay. I've got a slightly more vibrant variation I'm sneaking in here. Alright, let's maybe tone this down a little bit. Well, we'll add just a little bit of yellow to this. Maybe a little bit more alizarin crimson. There might be some cadmium red light in there too. As long as you do a dance between cadmium yellow, alizarin crimson, and cadmium red light, and maybe occasionally tone it down with cerulean blue, some interesting things, a lot of very interesting things will happen. Adding a little bit more alizarin crimson to this than I think I should. Every time you mix paints, it feels like you have to add more than you think you should. Okay. Let's try putting a little bit down here. Yeah, that color that we had earlier was just way too dark. Not that it was particularly awful or anything, but it just didn't have the right vibe. Yeah, a little bit more over here. Okay. This is getting interesting, guys. This is unexpected things happening. I ain't mad about any of it, though. Every single color that we whip up together has been nothing but a joy, a surprise. And a pleasure. Yeah, let's add a little bit over there, because flesh is not perfect. Sometimes flesh appears a little bit bruised. Sometimes it surprises you. Sometimes it just does things that maybe you think it shouldn't. Okay. Let's add a little bit more blue here, guys. I'm going to add a little bit of blue, cerulean blue to this. And the cerulean blue we're using to kind of just keep things in line. But also we occasionally want to have a very subtle violet. And we achieve that with mostly alizarin crimson with a touch of cerulean blue here and there. And that'll keep things from getting too crazy, thankfully. Okay, let's slip that right there. I don't know if that made a difference. Let's try that again. Alright, that's working. Yeah, it's not looking too bad. Yeah, right about here. Okay. This is looking mighty unusual, isn't it? This is looking mighty unusual, I say, as I paint this picture. Oh man. Here. Let me try this color over in here, guys, because I feel like, there's a little something right there that we're missing. This is just the Prussian blue that I've whipped up, kind of dancing with the sap green. Okay, this is looking okay. I thought that would have a little bit more coverage over here, but it's working. Okay. That's not too shabby at all, actually. I guess before we stop for today, let's take a look at this pillow and make sure that everything's in order. Is it in order, do you think? I don't know. I think I need to add a little bit of white to this. Right here. Okay. This is fine. Let's not get lazy. I want to make sure that I get this right. Sometimes you feel like you might get a little lazy painting something, but you don't want to become complacent. That's why I recommend doing things small steps at a time so you don't accidentally fumble the ball by getting a little too complacent with what you're doing. And I think I'm okay here. This particular area is proving to be a little bit troublesome, but it could be a lot worse, I suppose. Yeah, it's looking okay-ish. Okay-ish. I don't know. Let me see if I have a violet here I can mess around with. I think I do. Yeah. We got a lot of colors on the palette right now that we can kind of just fool around with, and hopefully there will be something that will fit the bill that we need. A lot of these pastel colors will kind of trick us. Okay. Add a little bit of cadmium red light up in here. I think I already did add some cadmium red light up in there too. Yeah, this is probably fine for right now. I've done a lot of work on this particular grid today, and things are looking pretty nice, aren't they? A little bit. Here's one last color I want to just kind of throw in there while I'm still thinking about it. What I'm mixing up now is some Viridian. It's kind of a teal color, I guess you could say. It's a teal color with a little bit of a yellow-green vibrancy. I don't know if that even moved the needle right there. Maybe we just need to wait for it to dry a little bit before we can do anything more to it. Yeah, maybe. We're probably just pushing around paint right now. Sometimes you just gotta wait for things to dry, guys. Otherwise, it's just, you're not really doing anything, honestly. Sometimes the paint just needs to take a break, if that makes sense. Okay. Let's take a look here. I want to have a dark color here. So I guess we'll take some of our Prussian blue. I know, Prussian blue again. Wow, color me shocked. That Prussian blue is showing up again on this palette. Well, you know, cadmium red has not really gotten much of a workout to date so far, so it's about time cadmium red gets off its keister. It does a little something. Like, we've had these cadmium red paints just sitting around. Well, now it's time for them to get to work. They're taking up space. Way too much space. Actually, they're just little blobs in the palette. They're not really taking up any space. I'm just kidding around here. But still, we're going to add some of the cadmium red. Cadmium red and Prussian blue. I love me some Prussian blue, guys. I really do. You know, I tried other blues. Just ain't anything else like it, guys. Not a thing. Okay. I think I've got what I'm looking for, everybody. Alright, let's add this to right in here. Oh boy, you can really smell the iron on that blue. You really can. I think I mentioned this a little while ago that paints have a scent, a lot of them. And you can start to identify them by scent, guys, if you paint long enough. Like, you can smell the iron in Prussian blue. You can smell the selenium in cadmium red. That you almost always know from a distance what color you are in fact painting with. And I'm not kidding around there. You really can smell it. Go ahead. I don't know if I'm going to advocate that you sniff your paints, make a habit of it, but I'm just telling you guys, if you paint long enough, you'll know the scent. It will be immediately obvious to you. Okay. Well, soulmates, that's all the time I have for today. So, hope you enjoyed yourself, and I'll see you again soon, guys. Till next time, have a great day, everyone. Got yourself some good mud. Let's actually use it next time.